Assassin's Creed Origins is the first of what would become known as the RPG Creeds, a series of Assassin's Creed games that adopt a much more RPG-centered game design, including gear looting and systems, hitbox-based mechanics similar to games like The Witcher, level gating, vast open worlds littered with many side quests, sometimes a bit too many and too repetitive, and a loosely open approach to the way that you can complete the story. It was a game designed to refresh the Assassin's Creed identity, and unfortunately it was the beginning of what many consider to be the loss of said identity, with the coming of its two sibling games, Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There is a lot about Origins that I love. It's one of my favorite games of the entire franchise, but there's definitely a lot of things that I don't agree with in terms of direction, especially when you contrast it with the direction it went after Origins with Odyssey and Valhalla. However, though these three games are similar in many ways, there's one thing that Assassin's Creed Origins sets itself apart in, and that's in knowing who its protagonist is. Bayek of Siwa, unlike Eivor and Cassandra, isn't cursed with the purgatory of identity that writers throw their protagonist into when they try to fit both a prefabricated story with the illusion of choice that comes with many RPGs. Bayek's actions will always be his own, and they will always fall in line with the character that he was written to be. He doesn't have dialogue options that allow for vastly different and often contradicting lines or actions. He isn't sometimes a vessel and sometimes a defined character. He doesn't give players the choice to decide who lives or dies. He has one romantic option, the wife that he chose, not the one that players chose for him, and every decision that he makes throughout the story is more or less consistent with the kind of man he was written to be. Not only to me does this improve the immersion factor, and I know that a lot of players like me agree that they don't want dialogue choices and contradicting character moments because it leaves you with non-characters, and Bayek thankfully is a very well written, very well acted, and very charismatic protagonist. Players like me are more interested in a single story, pre-written character. That allows us to do something that the other two RPG creeds don't allow us to do, which is we can narrow down a lore-accurate way to play this game. The first step in all of this is really understanding who Bayek is as a character, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But first, what you have to understand is the existence of a very small, low-budget indie game released just recently 6 years ago that is available for both mobile and PC and is the perfect game for Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla fans. There's even rumors that there's now 800 fully playable champions that you can play as in this game, like lizard-like creatures, elves, orcs, dwarves, and demons. There's even whispers of a new character that's just been reintroduced after a 3-year hiatus. This man is probably Ezio Auditore's biggest idol. This is the man that Ezio pinned up in his wall, wondering if he could ever be like him. I'm talking about Ninja. Ninja is now finally back. The legendary, strong, and charismatic champion is once again redeemable in Raid Shadow Legends. It's a super limited edition champion, so you better get it now by using the QR code that I'm putting in your screen right in front of your face. And you're probably screaming now, Spaniard, what do you have to do to get Ninja? It's simple. You download Raid using my link and no other link. You enter the promo code called Ninja Returns to get his fierce Shadowkin fighter and useful in-game items. Existing players can also get the Ninja Pack in the in-game shop between August 15th for 5 days. This is the greatest deal in the history of mankind. But seriously, I started playing this game now because they were gracious enough to sponsor me, and I promise you that if you love the mythical battles of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla, this game is exactly for you. My username is Spaniard11, so if you miss AC Unity Co-op being dead, this is the next best thing. So make sure to add me. Now, I'll normally get back to the video much faster than this after a sponsored segment, but I wanted to take a second to thank all of you who made this possible. I know that sponsorships aren't necessarily the sexiest thing in the world, and they're probably a little bit annoying when you see all the YouTubers doing it, but they really do help cover the costs of production and allow me to spend more time making these videos to make better edits or make more videos or simply improve the scripts and just justify spending more time in my day-to-day life on this channel. I've really wanted to do this for a long time, and I really wanted a reason to spend more time doing this and still be responsible. So I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel to the point where I can actually make this a reality, to the point where I can get some income from sponsors, because gaming ad revenue is just nowhere near what you need to cover the costs of production. And I promise you that they're only going to appear sporadically. I won't spam, and I'll try to make the segments engaging. But seriously, I just want to thank all of you for supporting me this much. It means a lot, and obviously a huge thank you to Raid for taking a chance on a small channel like mine. And now for the real important part: how do we kill guards? A Magi, a hunter, and a heartbroken man. Bayek is a person who grew up to be a protector and a hunter, long before the notion of becoming an assassin ever became a reality. He grew up in a tough world in the Siwa Oasis, learning how to hunt and learning how to prepare himself to be a Magi in terms of tracking and hunting down targets, whether animal or human, and prioritizing the safety of the people around him over his own. A lot of things that kind of laid the foundation for the assassin philosophy. After the loss of his son, he became angry and bitter, causing him to lose much of the honor that I believe he had in the first place. He's a pretty violent dude, and you can see this from the first scene in Assassin's Creed Origins. So we're definitely not going to be developing a pacifist or ghosting playstyle or a non-lethal playstyle where we try and avoid guards. Bayek is someone who's not only known death and violence from a very young age, but he's also very comfortable with it, and sometimes he's a little bit too fanatical and too spiritual about it. He seems to almost enjoy death when it comes to his enemies, and he doesn't shy away from it. So when you're playing as Bayek, don't think that you have to spare the lives of guards, because Bayek, I don't think, would have at any point. He seems to be very black and white with the idea of morality. So if you're a guard that's helping the target that you're trying to hunt down, you're almost equally as bad as the target itself. So keep that in mind when you're going around, that this is not a game or a character that you want to engage in ghosting or non-lethal playstyles with. However, he isn't simply a heartless killer, and this is important to remember. He is a proud Magi, I think the last Magi in Egypt's history. He's friendly with people who mean no harm and is always willing to help. He has a kind heart and a lot of charisma that serves him well when needing the people of a city to confide in him secrets that may help him with a mission. All of this is going to become noteworthy a little later on. But most of all, Bayek is someone who is driven by revenge. A revenge so strong that it necessitates his survival. And then, after some time, he adopts a philosophy that lays the groundwork for the Assassin Brotherhood. He understands the value of striking from the shadows. He understands the value of cutting the head off the snake and leaving no trail. A very natural transition from his hunter days. And this is going to inform a lot of the gameplay choices that we make this entire game more lore accurate and allow us to immerse ourselves more. You have to think of Bayek as a hunter, as a stalker, as a tracker, as a cold-blooded killer that kills efficiently and kills a lot. And that kind of reflects the unsustainable psychological state that he's in, but also his background and his skills and his philosophies when it comes to getting a job done or accomplishing something. From this quick analysis, we can see that the lore-accurate way to play Bayek will be stealth-focused, elimination-based, as I mentioned. Don't even bother sparing people, and using various tools outside of the hidden blade. Many assassins in this series, I'm going to recommend that you mainly use the hidden blade, but Bayek is not one of them. Feel free to do so, and I do it all the time, but he's a hunter, so he's going to use different types of tools, use his environment to his advantage, and make sure to think creatively when it comes to taking down his targets. So let's take a deep dive into the most important bits to get Bayek as canon friendly as possible. The first step is equipment. Before entering any restricted area or tackling any mission, let's first decide what tools Bayek is going to use. For me, the hunter bow and the light bow are by far the most lore accurate ones. One of them has a lot of power and can be shot at medium and long range without going overboard and losing immersion with the predator bow. I don't know if you know what the predator bow is, but it's basically a bow that acts like a sniper but allows you to bend arrows like you're in Wanted. And it's a little bit too immersion breaking and frankly not necessary, because yes, it allows you to kill enemies that are out of your line of sight, but if they're out of your line of sight, you probably shouldn't know that they're there. And I'll talk about that a little later on when we talk about Bayek's Eagle Senu. So what I recommend is to use the hunter bow, which still allows you to kind of be a sniper and shoot from long range. Not only that, but it makes you feel cooler because, well, you have to kind of time the height and the moment of the shot to kill them, and it looks pretty cool. And then you want a light bow. The light bow is good for two reasons. Number one is because it allows you to do a lot of combos that create dynamic stealth moments. You can jump from a ledge or from a tree and then utilize the slow motion of the light bow to quickly kill someone without being detected. But it also allows you to go back into stealth if someone does detect you, because you can deploy a lot of arrows quickly and kill someone very fast without having to aim too well. When it comes to Assassin's Creed and stealth games in general, especially stealth games that don't have like a terminal state if you get detected, so basically like if you get detected, sometimes a mission restarts in some stealth games or stealth missions. In AC Origins, it doesn't restart, you just go into combat. And because to be lore accurate, we have to be in stealth, or for the most part, we have to be in stealth. Whenever you do enter combat, having ways to quickly get out of it, like smoke bombs, sleep darts, and a light bow, it just comes in handy, and it's a very useful transition. I don't believe that the warrior bow is good either, because it's basically like a shotgun. It's very aggressive, and it's not very lore accurate for the type of person that Bayek is and how he would be doing things. In terms of weapons, I usually recommend swords or daggers. They're basically the best options because of their overpowerability. Once you level your Bayek high enough, and I imagine that at this stage in the game, you know, you guys 5 years later probably do have a maxed out Bayek, you unlock the ability to trigger your overpower ability if you get detected immediately. You don't have to build it up. And these two overpower abilities, the one from the sword and the one from the knives, the dual swords or the dual blades, allows you to close space between you and your target. Bayek basically charges towards the target and kills them instantly, which is very useful when you want to close the space between you and whoever detected you, end the combat period as quickly as possible, and go back into stealth, which is where Bayek belongs. In terms of tools, I want you to equip either the smoke bombs or the sleep darts. The fire bombs are cool, but they're not really stealth friendly and they don't really fit Bayek's character all that much. These are tools that will help you disable the enemy's SSI, which is basically just their ability to detect you. And that allows you to approach them directly, which means that you don't have to think about going into foliage or going through architecture. You can just disable them and run towards them and kill them, which is very useful when you're trying to play fast. If you combine all of this together, you have a character that is stealthy, that is dangerous, and has all the tools necessary to kill from up close and from long range, which is very important for Bayek, more than most assassins in this franchise and more than most assassins that I'll talk about in this series. Bayek needs the ability to kill from long range and then quickly kill from close range, not only because of what we talked about, how if you want to play in a lore accurate way, you want him to act like a hunter and hunt from afar and then close up on the remaining targets, but it's also because Bayek lives in a very open world. And when I say open, I mean open. Egypt is a very vast landscape with very little verticality, even in the restricted areas, which means there's a lot of open ground that you can get detected in if you don't start clearing lines of sight. So when you're playing in a stealthy way, being able to, with your bow, kind of whittle down the opposition, reduce some lines of sight, create some safe spaces and some safe bubbles within the restricted area where there's no line of sight and you're not going to get detected is key, which is why it's so important to equip the hunter bow. I also personally recommend that you remove the shield. You've probably been seeing this video and been wondering how the fuck does he do that. There's a video by Altair Stealth, which is my other channel, where I discuss how you can remove the shield, both for PC and for console. I believe in removing the shield because I don't think it's particularly lore friendly. I don't think Bayek would be walking around with a shield in the lore. It's not particularly stealthy if every time that he rolls, metal starts to scrape on the ground and he looks like a ninja turtle running around in the dark. So go ahead and watch that video if you want to know how to remove the shields. Now let's move to customization. Just because you're a murder machine doesn't mean that in these games the boys don't want to look cute while killing. So what are the lore accurate ways that you can dress Bayek for more immersion while also looking pretty cool? To be honest, you have a lot of choice. Apart from the legacy outfit, which for obvious reasons aren't lore accurate, most Origin outfits are actually pretty well designed and fit the time period pretty well, which is something that Valhalla could probably learn from. Just avoid like heavily armored or mythological outfits and you'll probably be good. My recommendation is to choose outfits with thin fabrics and that are white dyed, since these are the more logical ones that you'd wear in somewhere like Egypt where it's so fucking hot that you can barely breathe. Something like his base outfit or the Persian leader assassin outfit are perfect for this. Okay, so we have the equipment and we have the outfit. Let's see how we can use stealth in this world to play in a more lore accurate way, including the do's and don'ts that really embody Bayek as an assassin. Well, Bayek, as mentioned earlier, is a hunter, so we need to act like one whenever we enter enemy territory. The first thing to do is give up on Senu. I know that a lot of you like using him and it's a very easy cop-out, but it just makes no sense from a canon perspective for an eagle drone to be tagging all the enemies in a field and you being able to see them through walls and from miles away. It removes the challenge and immersion of having to keep a lookout for any potential guards in your vicinity, and I promise you it'll be way more immersive if you begin missions by looking for a way to get high, as in a high point. Predators like Bayek and Ashraf Ismail always look for a way to get to an elevated position from which they can strike. For Bayek, you want to get up as high as possible so you can scan the environment below him while avoiding the lines of sight of enemies. What I'm going to do is just narrate the process on this gameplay clip that you see here so I can explain what Bayek would do and the gameplay choices that I'm making to be more lore accurate. So as you see here, I'm climbing up to the top to get a vantage point and clearing out the guards that have any sort of line of sight from the top. These lookouts, these snipers or archers are kind of a nuisance, and you want to clear them out as quickly as possible to generate some sort of safe bubble at the top of a level. You want to make sure that you have the height advantage and not them. From here you can see why I think the hunter bow is pretty good. If we pause the clip, we see the interest that you have in not using Senu but still using the traits of a hunter by scanning your environments and taking note of where your enemies are. This is a pretty easy example because you can see exactly where they are, but I'll show you one later on where you'll understand why it's so thrilling and immersive when you have to constantly be looking out in your surroundings and not just focused on Bayek to make sure that you know where guards are and you're not going to get detected. So if we carry on playing, we can see here that there's no real consequence if we kill this guard over here. There's no overlapping lines of sight. I can try and time the height, shoot and kill. This is going to allow me to hide that body in the grass, and we'll talk about hiding bodies later on, and I can do the same thing with this guy. So you see, we don't really need a predator bow. The hunter bow is more than enough to get everything done. When we analyze the level, we have to again make sure that any height positions are completely covered by Bayek, so that we don't get detected from above, which is incredibly annoying. So we climb up through here, and we want to basically clear as much as we can of these enemies up here, because then we're basically always looking down. Enemies don't really look up, so they can't detect us, and it gives us time to think. Here I throw a smoke bomb, which I'll talk about later on in the video, to keep on clearing these enemies over here. So from here, I don't really need to kill that guy. Again, Bayek every now and then would spare someone. He's not like a murder machine. If they're not in his way, then it's completely fine. We're going to jump down, and I'm going to show you how you have to keep looking for where enemies may be. If I pause here, you can see that up here there's one guard, and there's a few more in the end. And there's probably going to be more down there. And this is a sequence that's going to lead into a fight scene, which I want to use to show you how to quickly enter combat and then get out of combat. Bayek is someone who is very much an aggressive person who's not afraid of combat and is not weak and fragile like other assassins. If he enters combat, he can hold his own, and he's not afraid of it as long as it doesn't trigger like a widespread detection. So when you're playing Assassin's Creed Origins, don't try and force yourself to constantly be undetected. Obviously strive for that, but for the most part, make sure that if you do get into combat, it's in places where only 1, 2, up to 4 guards can attack you, and you can dispatch them quickly and go back into stealth, which is what's going to happen here. So Bayek is scanning the surroundings. He's trying to find where these characters are. You can see that there's one guard there sitting down, who's pretty hard to spot, some guards guarding, and someone else over there. We perform a leap of faith, and we go through the barn to avoid lines of sight and prepare to kill as many people as we can before we enter combat. So here you can see how a smoke bomb disables SSI. With a chain assassination, you can get 2 guards killed, then the guy who was in the smoke bomb allows you to do another chain assassination. So that's 4 guards in 2 seconds, and then you do an overkill to basically close the space, as I mentioned. Using the sword, Bayek rushes towards the guard, you do an overkill, and then you do a chain kill. So basically, in 6 or 7 seconds, we were able to kill 6 to 7 guards, which is exactly what we want if we're going to enter combat when we're using Bayek in a stealth scenario. I'll show you a bunch of other clips when I'm speaking of Bayek being stealthy and trying to act like a hunter, utilizing all the weapons that he has, but for the most part, you want to do exactly that. You want to sit there and from a high position, without using Senu, you want to analyze as many of the guards and spot as many of the guards as you can to make sure that you know where they are. Dispatch them from long range if you know that's not going to trigger any investigations or any panics. For example, the guard that I killed that fell into the grass. And try and make sure that if you do kill someone and you trigger a detection, it doesn't lead to any sort of alarm, it doesn't lead to anything like that. So that's kind of like the stealth philosophy that you want to take. Make sure that you utilize your bows as much as your hidden blade and other tools. And when it comes to exploration and discovery, I just have a quick note for those who want to play through the whole game in a lore accurate way. Make sure to talk to people, walk the streets and listen. The writing of the side quest is often very well done, and it links very well into the reality of the city that you're tracking and getting to know. It's going to give you information on the target and also the state of the city and the state of the people. It's going to give you intrinsic motivation to protect them, to kill down the target, and to understand the world that you're in. It's extremely immersive, and I really do recommend that you just walk at street level, slowly listening to people and seeing what they say. Don't always run around the city like a maniac just because it's a video game. Sometimes slowing down and walking really helps. Throughout this video, you've probably seen Bayek look or act different from how you normally see him. And that's because of the gift of God that are mods. So for those who have a PC, here are 3 mods that I think are really cool and increase that immersion factor. Number 1 is the vaulting mod, because it makes the shitty parkour slightly more interesting. The throwable smoke bomb is key, and it opens so many stealth opportunities. It's actually crazy, so make sure you get that. And then I'm using a lot of the Basim Mirage outfit mods, because they're really cool, they fit the setting, and I think that it's really interesting. On the note of parkour, I didn't really talk about it in this video because honestly AC Origins does not have very interesting parkour. But do try and do some fancy tricks and make sure that you're using dynamic and interesting choices in your movement to just add a little bit more of immersion. There's no need to go overboard with the style. Bayek is a pretty efficient and down-to-earth character. He's a very stoic and stern personality. So it's not like Arno where you have to be doing kicks and flips and tricks every 5 seconds or you're a loser. Bayek is a pretty straightforward guy, but he's a very able guy. So make sure that when you are kind of inventing interesting parkour routes, it reflects more the skill rather than the style of the parkour, which is very easy with a parkour system that's as bad as Origins. I've actually made this exact video with Arno if you want to know how to play in a lore accurate way in Assassin's Creed Unity. So if you're interested in watching that, you can watch this video now. And thank you again to Raid Shadow Legends for making this video possible.